They'll match you up to $100.
I have a cup for Cooper Cup, I guess.
Make sure when you're at the Cheesecake Factory, instead of paying a tip, just write alarm in there.
I'm like MacGyver with running back rooms.
Yeah, that's pretty true. That's true, and yeah, that's true.
Okay, I'm getting word. We might get Joe Burrow in here. Hey, Joe!
No, I'm not drafting anyone at all.
I'm not going to, so quit asking.
I've got information, man.
Lightning House, let's ride. It is Lightning Round presented by Fantasy Alarm. I am Kevin Tompkins, Britt Flynn to my right on the screen. And no, even though the trade deadline did not pass, we did not trade Coop straight up for Gary. We got a package of picks as well. But Gary joining us for week 8, my friend, the original Lightning Round LG. How you doing, my friend?
I am doing fantastic. Always happy when I can come and sub in for Mr. Koopaloop, and I'm excited to be here, man. If Coop's going to be in Iceland, this is the best place I could be.
Well, we got the good end of the deal here as far as getting the trade. We're still working out the details. We got the trade in. We got a washer and dryer to be named later as well in the deal. So we're definitely on the good end of it here. Don't tell him I said that.
Can we also just talk about how Coop is becoming a superstar in Iceland? Like everywhere this man goes, he makes friends. Like
right?
he's building an Iceland contingency for fantasy football and Lightning Round and Fantasy Alarm. Like this guy is an ambassador. It's great.
Is he actually going to do that radio spot in Iceland? Because that would be so amazing.
Would think. I mean,
So.
If we could find a way to be like the fantasy footballers of Iceland, I mean, I've always wanted to go to Iceland, so I feel like that would be a real feather in our cap here on our road to obvious superstardom.
Yeah, it would be amazing, and
I
just like the idea that Coop is now internationally famous for his fantasy takes. Tight ends across the world unite.
Yeah, Iceland, I heard, is big tight end contingent there, so only fitting that Coop would be, running wild in Reykjavik in Iceland. So certainly love to see it. But we are not without fantasy football, of course, here without Coop, because it is the week 9 strategy session, as well as we got some questions. So let's get right into it here. If you're in the chat, let us know and say hi as well too. I'll pose this to Gary first, because we went through the trade deadline, one of the craziest 2-3 hour periods that I can think of, aside from like an NFL offseason or the free agency in March. But lots of players were traded. I mean, obviously we had a couple beforehand, but CMC got traded. We won't talk about him, but of the deals that were made at the deadline, Gary, who's the biggest winner of the deadline?
So I actually really like the Chase Claypool move. I think that not only do you get Justin Fields getting this huge bump, we've already seen him going on a tear. I'm going to talk about him a little bit later too, but now Chase Claypool, who had this amazing rookie season and then kind of dipped the last couple of years, and he's had some good targets this year, but it tended to be a lot more with Trubisky. And then now he gets to become the de facto number one. They paid for him to be the number one, and we've seen what this guy can do, and he can be all over the field and make plays. And I feel like he could potentially unlock a little bit of Mooney. So Mooney's not the one, and we'll kind of see it. Obviously there's a weird capped ceiling with how much Fields is going to throw, but this is the next 18 months before Claypool's contract is up, and they get to actually see what they're going to be doing with Fields long term now. So
yeah, that one really surprised me that he ended up going to the Bears specifically. Like, we knew that Green Bay really does need a wide receiver, and then it came out after the trade that Green Bay was actually looking into Claypool, and then the Bears come in there and swoop him out from under, which is kind of crazy to me also, because the Bears do seem to be in complete rebuilding mode, especially on their defense. But if you look at Claypool, he's a young receiver. He doesn't really have that much in way of a contract or capital that they're going to have to spend on him down the road. I think it's a brilliant move if you're rebuilding. Start rebuilding, this year, and then get all the rest of your pieces with your draft capital next season. So fully on board with this.
Yeah, I like it. It's, basically the trade ended up being like off-ball linebacker Roquan Smith for like switching him out for Chase Claypool, which Bears have been pretty much weapon bereft outside of Darnell Mooney, and I guess if you want to throw Cole Kmet in there, but anytime you can take the corpse of Equanimeous St. Brown off the field and add in Chase Claypool, the literal definition of a grown-ass man, if you want to look that up in the dictionary, flag and his picture will be next to it. But yeah, it's good for Fields, and I kind of like those two playing off each other a little more. We know Claypool can play in the slot. That's what he was doing with Pittsburgh, and now that opens up probably more for Freiermuth in Pittsburgh. But for Mooney and Claypool with Kmet, I mean, that's a pretty young core. If Justin Fields has a little bit of something, that's going to be really good for those. And we know Claypool could be a deep threat. It was rookie year. What was it, 11 touchdowns or something crazy like that? So I think it's a good move. I just, they've got to just go more toward the pass a little bit. They cannot be, Falcons leather helmet offense light and expect to get what they want out of Chase Claypool. So I do like it from a football standpoint. I like it from a talent standpoint for Claypool. I'm just worried about the offense a little bit, and at least immediate fantasy value. But if you have him, I'm seeing if I have other options, at least for the first week. And then just seeing if he goes, 90% of the routes off the jump, then, you're good to go. But it doesn't always work out for these guys, at least in the very beginning. They've got to get their feet wet and learn how the system works. So definitely do like Claypool, just a little hesitant, but the talent's there. So we'll roll with it. Britt, what about you? You're a winner for the trade deadline.
So I think it was Chase Edmonds. We really had high hopes for him going into Miami, in the offseason and training camp and even preseason. Everyone was like, Chase Edmonds is going to be the guy in Miami. He had the running back potential and the pass catching potential. And then Raheem Mostert came in and kind of stole the show. We know that Edmonds does have that pass catching ability because that's where he served primarily in Arizona. And now he goes to Denver, where they lost Javonte Williams. They're running with Latavius Murray, Melvin Gordon, just basically some guys, some Jags. Let's just be real. And we also know that Denver kind of does like to check down. We saw in week 1 that Denver checked the ball down to Javonte 19 freaking times. So now that they have a legit pass catching option, I think that they're really going to get him involved and that Chase Edmonds is actually going to have some fantasy value. So super excited.
I do like that he's got. This coaching staff hates Melvin Gordon. Like, that's crystal clear. They seem to love Latavius Murray. So I do think it'll take 2 weeks and they're on a bye. So who knows? Maybe we come out and Edmonds ends up being the starter, whatever. They say that Melgo is going to be the starter, but that doesn't sound realistic to me. These guys love Latavius. So if he can beat out Latavius, which I don't think there's a ton to beat out there, except for they seem to trust him a lot in pass protection. So if he can prove to be a better pass protector, then I think that they'll roll with Edmonds. But let's be crystal clear. Edmonds looked like total garbage in Miami. So he's got a lot of rebuilding to do, and they'll find out in the next, 15 days, whether or not he was worthwhile to bring on, even if he was not the main piece of that.
Well, so I don't think he's going to be like the starter, but I do think he's going to have value in like a la a Nyheim Hines thing. Like, I guess I should have included that in there. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little perplexed by the move. I guess it was just to get some of the salary off the books there in a fresh start for Edmonds. Yeah, Chase Edmonds was dead last in rushing yards over expectation. And just, as we know, the whole goal line thing with only 8 career carries inside the 5. So, I mean, we're not ticketing him for that kind of work. That's probably going to stay with Latavius Murray, Melvin Gordon to some extent. So yeah, you're basically hoping that he can be a kind of a version of Nyheim Hines. And I just don't think that, he's RB 48 right now. I'm just not enthused by at least this move. Denver is collecting running back, like dead running backs at this point. They're basically like last year's Ravens, and at least last year's Ravens were productive with Murray and Devonta Freeman and Le'Veon Bell and all these and Tyson Williams. But I mean, it's not great, Bob. So McDaniel hated Chase Edmonds more than Dever hated Melko. Yeah, he's definitely in contention there. But yeah, I'm just it's not a great move for me as far as for fantasy. I mean, he's rosterable, but eventually I think he just hits the waiver wire and then somebody else picks him up on some false promises and lather, rinse, repeat. For me, I like Nyheim Hines to Buffalo. I think Devin Singletary's role is a bit safe. They tend to roll him out in high leverage situations. They love trusting him in, neutral game scripts, running the ball and catching passes. So I think Devin Singletary's fine. I don't think there's going to be any threat to his workload, even though Nyheim Hines is pretty underrated as far as a ball carrier. Obviously, we know he's a really, really good kickoff punt return guy. And in the offseason was rumored to be taking some slot work, which came to fruition a little bit, but we all got our expectations super high on Nyheim Hines. So going to Buffalo, much better offensive environment there. I think he works his way into the slot conversation with Isaiah McKenzie not really taking a lot of the opportunity that was afforded to him. Obviously, Jamison Crowder hasn't really worked out that well. They've been a little bit more hesitant to throw Khalil Shakir out there too. So, I mean, Nyheim Hines at least can be another weapon for a great team and just another weapon for Josh Allen to throw the ball to. So I do like this. And I think just based on the offensive environment and the opportunities that he might get in Buffalo, I think Hines is a big winner here. And I think he's going to be get an upgrade in value. I don't think he's going to be cracking top 24 most weeks, but I think he can flirt with being a very low end wide receiver to a good flex or running back two and a good flex.
Yeah. And we kind of touched on it with Chase Edmonds. Buffalo went out and they tried to trade for JD McKissick. They wanted a pass catching running back. And then that didn't work. He went back to Washington. They tried to draft James Cook, but James Cook has really kind of not lived up to their expectations in pass pro. And so Nyheim Hines is actually this guy who's been proven year after year, who can be this guy who can fulfill all of these roles and actually have an immediate role, especially on a championship competing offense. So I love it. Gary, what do you think?
So we know that they've been trying to fill this pass catching role for how long? I mean, they were in on JD McKissick. They drafted James Cook, and now they're going here. I want to know what they're going to do. Like, that's what I'm excited for, because they clearly wanted this. And is it just a replacement in case for a stretch run? I mean, they're clearly like the odds-on favorite. Does Allen even pass to the running backs? All I know is that I see when he does, and he's like, he does it great because he's freaking Josh Allen, dude. He's awesome at everything he does. So I agree with he's a huge winner. I agree with he probably won't crack top 24. I think that this is just that offense just getting stronger and stronger. And it's such an indication to me that James Cook either just isn't ready or they feel like they busted already on that second round pick. So, hey, Devin Singletary and Hines, they're going to split more than JT and Hines were. So no matter what, his stock to me is looking up from where it was before.
Yeah, it's like, it reminds me of like an MLB deadline where like the really good team gets a really good left-handed reliever. Like, it's not going to jump off the page at you as far as a great move, but for like the total team aspect and coming in like crunch situations, it's like just so invaluable of a role. Like, that seems to me that's Nyheim Hines in a nutshell for me. And I'll go to this too from Scampers. I think Kamara might be the biggest trade deadline winner. Yeah, I mean, I was wondering if Kamara might have been dealt to like the Eagles or something. That was like some of the scuttlebutt there, but yeah, I think that's certainly in consideration too. And I will answer this question real quick before we go to our next question. I need to start as a flex pull PPR, Pittman, Dobbs, and Kadarius Toney. You still got to start Pittman, even though it is Ellinger. Didn't look super great, but I think he showed enough to at least have a little bit of staying power. But, I think he's still got to roll with Pittman. I think he's still a mid to, maybe a lower tier wide receiver too, but not for Dobbs or Tony, certainly.
See, for me, it depends on how you look in your matchup. Like, do you need safety? Do you need floor? Or do you need upside? Because for upside, for me, it's Dubs against Detroit. Oh my God, all the way. If you need a floor, then it's Pittman. So take that into consideration.
I was about to say, in my standard typical response to all of these, floor Pittman, ceiling Dubs. Britt said everything I would have said. So,
I'm sorry,
right.
I stole it from our guest. I feel so.
No, it's good. Dude, I always answer all of these questions with it's either this or that. Every time you guys even ask me questions in the show doc, I tend to list like 7 different players I want to discuss. So got to get it in there while I'm here.
Right, exactly. So as far as our opinions and stuff from like the off season, we've talked about those. We haven't really talked about, we talked about what we got wrong. We talked about what we got right, but we all have our opinions in the off season, and with those opinions comes, we got to change our minds.
I've got information, man. New shit has come to light.
And it changes our opinion. So I'll go to Gary first on this. What's one opinion that you had in the off season that after these 8 weeks, after these, has changed for you?
So halfway through the season, this was looking correct. And it's Justin Fields was kind of it was a waste for fantasy. Like all these people that were talking about the ceiling that he had, it was like, man, I'd much rather take Trey Lance, which, hey, whatever. And through the first 4 weeks, it was like, all right, like these guys are playing for first overall. The Bears just look terrible, even though they came out the gate and beat the Niners. Oh, terrible game. But now, like the last 4 weeks, Justin Fields is fun to watch play football. Dude, he's run for 80, almost 90 yards, 80 yards, 60 yards in the last 3 games. I mean, he's been throwing touchdowns. He's fun to watch. And this is why the Chase Claypool thing just adds an extra level to that. Maybe Matt Eberflus just, it's a new coach, new OC. Like it takes some time to clean totally as a joke. And even just, if you believe like the whole hubbub about the CBA made it so that practices are kind of a waste in August. So now we just got through 4 weeks. That was the preseason. All of a sudden they're starting to hit their stride. And I don't think that they're magically going to win the NFC North or anything. But for a fantasy, if Fields was on the waivers, he should have been the top waiver pickup in almost every league this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And Scampers, I'm with you too. I thought I knew something about fantasy football before the season started too.
Those were the days.
When you're feeling so good about your team, you're like, I've drafted the best team. All the draft analyzers are saying you're going to win your league. And now you're like 2-6.
We've done a lot of growing up in these last 8 weeks.
Oh, so good. But yeah, Gary, to your point, there's a fly on my forehead. That's gross. It was like 50 and now it's 80. So all the flies have come back and my office is right next to the back door. So apparently this guy got in. But last week's game against the Cowboys, Dallas was such heavy favorites and Dallas has this great offense and they're going to completely crush the Bears. And then Fields kind of ran all over him. He threw a touchdown to Cole Kmet. Let's get real. Like he is finding ways to get the ball to his playmakers in situations where he otherwise wouldn't. And I think going down the stretch that it's going to be even more fun. Now, I will say that the Bears, I think, do have the 4th toughest remaining schedule going forward in the league. So there's going to be a little bit of difficulty going forward, but he's still so fun to watch. Totally agree.
So
Kev, what about you?
Yeah, last 4 weeks he's been quarterback 2. Behind Burrow. So, Justin Fields. This is like the case study in why are rushing quarterbacks so valuable in fantasy. Like Burrow. Fields has only had, one game over 200 yards in the past 4 weeks. But the rushing floor, 160, 220, 270 yards rushing like in that time and 2 touchdowns. He's only thrown more than 1 touchdown once, and that was last week. Like Justin Fields is a fantasy, like he still gets played Detroit twice. I mean, there you go. I mean, if there's any reason to hold him, you're holding him for the next couple games, where after this week against Miami, he gets Detroit, Atlanta, Jets, Green Bay. Green Bay's, not been that great bye week. And then the first 2 games are brutal, Philly and Buffalo, but fantasy championship, Fields versus Detroit. So, Justin Fields, you're not, it's weird because if you picked up Fields off of waivers, more than likely you either needed a quarterback or you had just a guy that you wanted off the bye weeks. But either way, you're sitting in a good spot. So hopefully you don't have to make a big decision whether to start like Justin Herbert or Justin Fields. But if you had like Trey Lance and you picked up Justin Fields, you're loving life right now. So Justin Fields, he could be a league winner. He could win you a championship. That's wild to say in 2022, the year of our Lord.
I love it.
I love it.
We're in the upside down.
We are through the looking glass here, people. Let's stay with that team though, Britt. Opinion from the offseason that has changed for you.
Yeah, I'm going to go in the opposite direction, saying that I thought this guy from the Bears was going to be really, really damn good. I thought the target share, especially the one that he had last year as the quote number 2, was only going to increase this season, that he was only going to get better, that his matchups were going to be better because they were going to be working from behind, This guy's Darnell Mooney. Like, I really thought that Darnell Mooney was going to be a thing, and he's not. Through 8 weeks, he has had 44 total targets, and that's even kind of inflated by that 12 target game that he had in week 6. Even with that 12 target game, he still only has 5.5 per game on the season. I mean, it's terrible. It looks awful. The guy is not wide receiver 1 material, at least at this point in the game. And it hurts to admit that I'm wrong, but I was wrong on Darnell Mooney.
Maybe the second half we can see it. He goes back into that wide receiver 2 position. All of a sudden, we got some magic going.
I would love it. I would love to see it. At least like slightly vindicate me so I don't have to claim a capital L, maybe just a lowercase L on that one.
Yeah, recreate some magic. Darnell Mooney, Daddy Magic. Let's go. There's a new nickname right there. Daddy Magic Darnell Mooney. Let's go. He has not been the receiver he thought we were drafting in the end of the 5th round, start of the 6th. But I mean, at least it's not an Allen Robinson. Let's just say that. That's a pretty low bar to clear. But I would say that he's been fine in that regard. Just he hasn't scored all season either. So I mean, the targets at least are coming up from the first 2 weeks, but outside of that 12 he doesn't have anything over 6 besides that 112 target game in week 6. So I mean, he's hard to start. I mean, it's kind of you're hamstrung into starting him in your flex spot, but you don't ever feel great about it. You're just hoping that he pops off for that long touchdown when you have him. So not what you wanted out of your mid-round pick, certainly in the RB dead zone, but it is what it is at this point. My opinion from the offseason, and this is really my opinion from like the last couple years, but we'll just say it's from the offseason that Nick Chubb might just be a league winner. Take that, Kangas.
Clip it. Clip it.
Yeah.
We've got to clip it.
Yep.
Clip that shit. So I mean, say what you want about the Cleveland Browns. He's relevant. He's number 3 right now behind Austin Eckler and Christian McCaffrey as far as PPR. And I didn't think he could get that far, honestly. I mean, it's just goes to show how good of an actual runner he is in the NFL, and the fact that he can be efficient with the carries that he does get. The Browns have not been in like really bad game scripts either, which has helped for Nick Chubb and has actually hurt the upside for Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt has been coming in to take a lot of those, getting him off the field. Like Nick Chubb has just been out there. They've been riding him, and it can only get better with Deshaun Watson coming in a few weeks. Like Nick Chubb, I don't think we're going to ever, say that he's an Austin Eckler gaining, 6-7 targets per game or anything like that. But just based on efficiency, like he is like the Jonathan Taylor play of last year, where he can be so efficient with the opportunities that he gets as a really, really good real life runner. I fucked up. I was wrong. Nick Chubb's a league winner. Clip that one instead of the one before. You can clip them both. I don't care.
I love it. It's so nice to hear you finally come to the force side.
First Alan Lazard and now Nick Chubb. Like
you're having an identity crisis at this point in the season. Like, what are we doing to you? What is the NFL doing to you at this point in the season?
I'm down bad, Britt. I'm down bad.
I love it so much. I've always loved Chubb. I loved him when he was at Georgia. I thought that a second round draft spot for him was an absolute steal. And then going to Cleveland, who really doesn't care whether or not they're down. They are going to stick to their guns. They're going to run the ball. They're going to play leather helmet football, like you like to say, Kevin. But they're actually being successful with this method. And Chubb's looked good. And he's even, like you said, he's gotten a little bit of those targets. He's basically taken over this backfield share. And I think when Deshaun Watson comes back, it's going to be even better because, you've had to respect Jacoby Brissett this much through this point in the season. What are you guys going to do with Deshaun Watson when he comes back? So love Chubb. Number one fan. Also, very fun player to incorporate your fantasy football team names in, but that's a whole other story. So, Gary, what do you think about Chubb?
What's funny about his last name?
You're not going to bait me here.
I just want to say honorary mention here because Josh Jacobs, dude, we collectively owe you a hug and an apology. Granted, last week was not great, but oh my God, Jacobs was so much fun. I feel like for at least that 3-week stretch, just hope that he can keep it going and whatnot. But it's been awesome, so awesome.
Yeah, let's take it a week at a time with the names that I have to start touting here and saying that was wrong, or else the fantasy receipts account is just going to be one constant clip of me saying I was wrong with all these. It's going to be like an Oscars montage where. Oh yeah, let's take a look at the people who we lost, Kevin, multiple times. So.
No, well, I still think that was a very fair assessment, though, based on the offseason rumors and historically how Josh McDaniels has operated his running back groups. I don't think that it was just, I don't like this guy. I'm going to make up some reason and kind of like try to connect the dots with face paint, I think he really just is competing for that 5th-year contract. And I think he really wants to show that he's worthy of going to another team. And we've seen a lot of players do this when they're competing for contracts. I mean, just so many of them. And even on a piss poor Raiders offensive line, to be totally fair, like Jacobs has shown up and shown out. And I don't think I ever expected with both the timeshare and that offensive line that Jacobs was going to be as good as he was. So.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, we'll save the Josh Jacobs stuff for next week when I have to make a elongated soliloquy about how much I was wrong about him. Let's go into the week 9 stuff here. So I think I'll start off this week with our cover boy, AJ Brown, who's going to be putting up 2 touchdowns and 125 yards on the Texans. That game is going to get ugly. Like UGLY ain't got no alibi. Like you ugly. It's going to be so. Look, the Texans could not compete with Malik Willis let's just be fair. They could not compete with Derrick Henry. That's it. Like that. Those 2 teams are like shells. So add the Eagles to that, who I believe are 14-point favorites. And I believe I actually tweeted with Sawhook today about the fact that he said it was crazy that it was 14. I said, yeah, it should have been 27.5. Because I think that game's going to get out of hand very quickly through the air. I mean, it could be Devonta Smith for all we know, because he really didn't get in on the touchdown love last week against the Steelers. But I mean, AJ Brown's a grown ass man, and I'm sorry, I think he's the top 3 wide receiver right now in football, in fantasy at least. That's how for me, it's CM, or I'm sorry, it's Cooper Kupp, it's Jefferson, and I think it's AJ Brown right after that. So fight me on that. I don't think get too much blowback on that, but yeah, AJ Brown. I mean, he's the Stephon Diggs to Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen. Like, that's Jalen Hurts is going to win MVP, and in a large part because of AJ Brown, and obviously Goddard and Devonta Smith are going to have a part in that. But yeah, AJ Brown's going to go scorched earth on this Texans secondary. What do you think? What do you guys think?
I think 100%. I think that, the Texans have done a little bit better in kind of rebuilding their secondary, but there's no way that they're going to be able to pressure Hurts into making bad decisions. I mean, they just don't have enough personnel in that front seven. They don't have enough longevity or depth in that front seven, because we know that Philly defense is going to run that Houston offense 3 and out every single time. That defense is going to get tired. AJ Brown is going to be able to smoke everybody on defense because they're so gassed. I mean, they're just going to absolutely crush. And I want to point out that earlier on in the season that there were some stats about Jalen Hurts not putting up good numbers against the blitz. And then he kind of looked around and did some film work and decided how to get more comfortable in the pocket. And now his completion percent against the blitz in these past 2 or 3 games have been the best in the entire league. Like, everything on this team is clicking 100%. We're cooking with gas in Philly, and it pains me to say it as a Cowboys fan, but AJ Brown is a huge part of this, and he is going to scorch the Texans. Gary?
You guys said it all. I just want to see it. It's just fun. Having the Hurts Brown stack in a couple places it just feels good. It feels nice. It's warm.
It's fuzzy. It's literally printing money for anybody who has that. So I certainly love to see it. Gary, what are you excited about in week 9?
I'm excited to see the usage of Kadarius Toney. I don't know that it's going to be a ton, but he is just such an electric playmaker. I personally believe that the only player that he really comps to are either it's like Debo and Tyreek, and he's not anywhere as good as either of them, but he has attributes of, he has Tyreek's speed, it feels like, in Debo's change of direction and twitchiness, and I'm here for it. I just want to see it. I know that this will probably not be a heavy week for his integration, but dude, just see some end arounds with him. Like, it's fun watching the Hardman ones just because he's pretty quick, but I want to see what Toney can do in that offense, even if it takes 2 weeks. It's just a fun, like, that move feels like a fantasy football move. Let's just go and light a match on this gasoline.
Well, and during the preseason, when Kyle Trask came out to play, there were a few tweets that I saw that said Kyle Trask only looked good because of Kadarius Toney and Kyle Pitts. And I'm so excited to see him in an actual offense that will utilize him in a passing role. I know he still has a lot to clean up on his route running. He's a young player. That can be done. Do you really think that Mahomes is going to care if he screws up a little bit on his routes? No, Mahomes is going to sidearm it to him. He's going to be fine.
He's going to find the back it to him.
Yeah, right. It might take him a week or 2 to get familiar with this offense, but I mean, hell, we even saw a couple weeks ago, Mecole Hardman scored 2 or 3 touchdowns. Let's get real. Anybody on this offense can score at any time. And having this weapon, especially a guy with this skill set who magically isn't hurt anymore, is pretty damn exciting.
Yeah, he is that that gif of Kevin Nash, like he is in the leg cast and he takes off the blanket and just gets up and walks away. That's Kadarius Toney right now. But we know the dude's talented. I mean, he had that game against Dallas where he just looked like he was on another planet. He had 189 receiving yards, 13 targets in that game last year. But he's also can be used, as they love to use Mecole Hardman in the rush game, and they love the pop-up passes. Like Kadarius Toney can be like an upgraded version of that. So I actually don't like Mecole Hardman as much going forward. I think this kind of signaled, I'm not going to say the end of Sky Moore, but as far as him being a thing this year, I think that's kind of being tucked away and put between the pages. So if we can get Kadarius Toney to about 50-60% of the routes, if he's feeling good, if he's healthy, that's the main thing, where he's saying he's healthy, but it remains to be seen. But I'm very excited about seeing Kadarius Toney in this offense. I mean, we know it's going to be MVS and Juju, but I think Toney probably is a parallel as far as athleticism, just size and speed adjusted to MVS, because we know MVS is like a 6'5" freak that can run a 4.4. But I think Kadarius Toney, easy for me to say, is right up there with him. So I'm very excited. I mean, the rich get richer, and and
then there are the rest of us.
Yep.
And then here we are rostering Velus Jones Jr. So let's go over to Britt for what you're excited about.
So I'm excited about this Seahawks Cardinals matchup, because the first week we were completely misled and led astray by everybody thinking that this was going to be a shootout. It was like a 50.5 over under. And then the game ended up 19-9. 19-9. What's different within this past 2 weeks? DeAndre freaking Hopkins is back with the Cardinals. That is what is different. And I am so stoked to see what is going to happen now that the Cardinals have one of the best wide receivers in the entire league back with them. Now that DK Metcalf is presumably healthy. I know he was limited today, but they said he was limited all week last week, and then he, did what he did. And being in Arizona, I think this is going to be a completely different atmosphere than it was in Seattle. Seattle is notoriously loud, notoriously difficult to play in. I think we are finally going to get the shootout that we were promised 2 weeks ago with the Seahawks Cardinals game. And I cannot wait.
Did Walker play in that game?
I think so.
It's so weird to me. That was 2 weeks.
Was that the game that Penny got hurt?
Yeah, he did. He 97 and a touchdown. With
okay, that must have been the week after.
After,
feels like it was forever ago.
It does. That's what 8 weeks does to you.
But I mean, but they weren't forced to pass any because Arizona was just so flaccid on offense.
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
Now I think they actually will have that firepower with Hopkins.
Well, there's just so many pieces between those two offenses now, that are fantasy relevant. I mean, I think Ertz is top 5 right now, maybe top 6. Then you said Hopkins. Rondale Moore has shown up as being like a flex guy. Plus, then you have Kyler, and you have whatever back is going to be there. You're still going to probably start them. And then you have what? You have Gino, who's crazy, actually relevant now. And then the Walker, the 2 wide receivers, and hell, I mean, maybe you're going to have a Disley sighting, Big Montana or whatever coming out.
Yeah, who had Seattle being good on their bingo card? Because
not me.
I mean, let's be honest. Yeah, DeAndre Hopkins has a 37.5% target share in the last 2 weeks since he's been back. He has clearly proven he is not. He's been working out the last 6 weeks. The first 6 weeks of the season, and now the dude is he's absolutely everything that they needed once they lost Marquise Brown. He just stepped in and they did not lose a beat. I mean, granted, they're still kind of losing games they should win, but at least they're doing it with Hopkins for fantasy purposes. So I guess beggars can't really be choosers. But Hopkins is just that dude. I mean, he could easily finish from the rest of the season as a top 10 wide receiver, just based on the pace. The dude could still put up 80, 90 catches, even missing 6 games. And that's just wild to me. But, and I was a guy that was kind of counting him out, but at least at that price that he was going at, knowing he was going to miss the first 6 weeks, it was definitely worth it to be able to get a stud like that. So, I will say I did take Godwin more than Hopkins because they were about the same price, but, still both really good, payoffs there if you held on to them for the first, few weeks of the season. So yeah, Hopkins is that dude certainly, and I am excited to see him as well. Going over to the things that we're nervous about, Gary, I'll start with you on this one.
So we talked about the Packers Lions matchup, and honestly, Aaron Rodgers, if Aaron Rodgers doesn't do it this week, I don't even know what to expect for Rodgers' ceiling in a game that he should crush.
You're preaching, buddy.
Unless Lazard is in, I just don't know. Or he's able to get multiple touchdowns from Aaron Jones. Regardless of what you think about Alan Lazard, he is a trusted weapon for Aaron Rodgers compared to these youngsters who are getting called out by Rodgers. So you really just have Aaron Jones. It's not like AJ Dillon's doing much. Man, I think this is the last week where you're forced to start him. And if he does not put up a top 12 finish, I would actually even say a top 8 finish. I think that he's droppable. He should not droppable. He should be dropped. More than just droppable, he should not be on rosters.
Yeah, I had that same feeling last week. But my only backup was Daniel Jones. And I was like, you know what? Fine. I'm tired of holding on to the name recognition of Aaron Rodgers. I'm going to start Daniel Jones. And then we saw how that ended up. So it's not, it was a dynasty league. So that kind of puts a little bit of context to it. But I completely agree. Aaron Rodgers has not lived up to his back-to-back MVP moniker. He's not lived up to his Hall of Fame career. Everybody who said that Aaron Rodgers was going to be fine without Devontae Adams, how do you feel now? Stupid.
Go on my Twitter feed, which is about half Packer fans, and please tweet that out.
No, I don't want that smoke.
Aaron Rodgers on a per game basis has not been that much better than Zach Wilson. That's where we're at with Aaron Rodgers. And my trials and tribulations with the Alan Lazard experience have been well documented in this space. So I won't go too much in depth there, but that offense is just not right. You take away a Pro Bowler, or you take away an All-Pro wide receiver. I wonder what's going to happen. Oh, but they were 7-0. Okay, well, here comes the other side of variance because it's Aaron Rodgers, and he does not. Alan Lazard's profited, I guess, and then Dobbs had a touchdown. Some dude named Samori Toure, they took in the 7th round, had a touchdown at the end of Sunday Night Football. They were never in that game. The game was 27-17. That game that was never in doubt by Buffalo. So, the Packers are not in a good spot. And let me just say, Twitter was absolutely reasonable and fantastic after Green Bay did not acquire anybody at the trade deadline. So, good ups on them, I guess. But Aaron Rodgers could probably get dropped. Jacoby Brissett's outperforming him in fantasy. That's pretty much all you need to say about that.
Yeah, it's sad. We'll
move on so we can stop lamenting.
Yeah, for some sanity amongst your stream participants here.
Well, hey, I'll make you feel better about this one, Kev, since you already had to play up Nick Chubb and Josh Jacobs. I'll talk about somebody I'm worried, who you talked about early on in this season, who you were worried about, and that's Derrick Henry. I am very worried about Derrick Henry this week going against the Chiefs. They are 12.5-point underdogs. The Chiefs or the Titans literally have 4 wide receivers on their roster. 4. That's it. The rest of them are on IR or on the practice squad. They don't have anybody to throw to. So that they're just going to try to put this game on Derrick Henry's back. We still don't know if Tannehill's going to be healthy. And Derrick Henry has only had 1 game so far this year under 20 attempts. That was against Buffalo when they were huge underdogs. And we saw how that turned out. I think this game is going to be the same. Kansas City has allowed the third fewest rushing yards per game in the entire league. Not necessarily because I think Kansas City is impeccably good against the running back. It's that Kansas City gets out to such a lead that that negative game script comes into play. So it's just passing. But either way, I don't really know if Derrick Henry is going to have the kind of fantasy day that we want and or expect from him, especially as a first-round running back in a week that we have 6 buys, and we really need him to perform.
Yeah, that must mean Derrick Henry's the 7th buy. At least for this intrepid Britt Flynn here. But yeah, I mean, he's already, limited in practice with the foot injury. I'm pretty sure it's just the same. Not sure if it's a re-aggravation or whatnot, or just some general soreness, but that's typically not great for a running back, some say. So I am a little bit concerned there, but yeah, he was going up against what essentially was Glass Joe from Mike Tyson's Punch-Out with the Texans last week, and now goes up against, the Chiefs can be run on. I mean, that's no secret there, but when you are the offense, that's probably not good. Yeah. And you said there were 4 wide receivers, Britt. I would classify that as 1, Robert Woods.
I was being charitable. All right. I was being charitable.
Well, charity stops here, Britt. When it comes to the Titans pass catchers, when you go on my target report, you will see that is emphatically true whenever I talk about the Tennessee Titans. But yeah, I guess it's gonna be very we already talked about UGLY ain't got no alibi. It could be ugly. Gary,
I love it. No, you guys, I got nothing else to add. The only saving grace that the Titans have is that Frank Clark was suspended for 2 games. So, but let's be honest, they still are going to get overmatched. And Derrick Henry's amazing, but you can only do so much when you're down 3 scores.
Yep.
Exactly. And then let's get to mine. Mine is the Chargers. So, I guess I can just remove Austin Eckler from the equation. Yeah, basically. But Mike Williams is hurt. Keenan Allen said his hamstring got worse since the bye week. Like, what were you doing? What were you doing? Like, pliéing? Were you like in like the Nutcracker or something like that and doing pliés? Not that I know about ballet or anything, but good God, like, how does that even happen on a bye week? So right now you're running out who is a jag, Josh Palmer, DeAndre Carter, Gerald Everett. Justin Herbert's already banged up with a rib injury. Like, the Chargers are like legitimately like the 7 or 8 years ago Chargers, where it seemed like everybody and their mother got hurt. Like, they're making a nice return to that, which is, I don't know if it's a tribute piece by Tom Telesco and those guys, but good on them for always remembering who came before you. So it could be ugly for the Chargers outside of Austin Eckler. I'm not enthused. It doesn't sound like they're going to have Keenan Allen back anytime soon. When he was out there before the bye, he ran 20% of routes and then didn't play at all in the second half. So just very concerned overall.
Well, and this is a good way to segue into some DFS advice. I know when I first started playing DFS, I like to look at matchups and be like, oh, but they're really good against this guy or this defense, and they're really good against this defense. Take into account the factors of all the players on this team that you don't have playing. Because if you don't have a pass game, it doesn't matter how good Austin Eckler is going to be against this run defense. If they don't respect the pass, they are going to stack the box and completely destroy you that way. And that is just going to kind of implode on you. And I think you're completely right, Kevin. I'm super worried about the Chargers as a whole. Over the past 3 games, Justin Herbert has only put up 14 points per game in each of the past 3 games. That is terrible. So, yeah. Gary, what do you think?
It just makes me so sad. Like, Justin Herbert's so good, and he just keeps getting screwed over. Like, physically gifted, just an awesome quarterback. But I don't know. What else do you want to do? Like, you're in your top 2 guys are out. Gerald Everett's going to be a solid start, and so is Eckler. And that's it. You're starting Herbert because you can't not. I don't know. Fields or Herbert? Are you going to start Fields?
Yeah.
I think so.
I think so.
That's a good
I mean,
question.
that's probably like the dividing line right there. Like Aaron Rodgers, Justin Herbert.
I think
Shouldn't have asked.
Rodgers.
Dirty.
that's
I
so
feel dirty.
gross.
I shouldn't have
Rodgers,
done
I
that.
don't feel good about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
I think
mean,
the same.
It's a crap situation. Like I have to decide Dalton or Herbert, and I'm just like I have to go Herbert.
Oh,
Anyway, so yes,
feel
I think
good.
that question just it emphasizes how crappy it is, and I can't imagine being was it Telesco? Is he the owner of the Chargers? I can't even remember anymore.
The GM.
GM, thank you. It was just they always get screwed over.
Yep.
Yeah, and the worst thing about it is they get like the ultimate pass funnel matchup against the Falcons this weekend with AJ Terrell out, and they can't even like take advantage of it. Like, go stash DeAndre Carter, I guess, for what, Stone Min, or at least 3,500 on DraftKings. It's got to be, or like
when the Falcons traded for Rashad Fenton, it made me wonder how long AJ Terrell's actually going to be out for. The fact that they were like, we have to go get something just to have a body in there.
And they also traded Dean Marlowe to the Bills, which I thought was hilarious because he was the guy that got torched by DJ Moore on that long play, and the Bills were like, we have to have that guy.
It makes no sense.
Can you get torched by Tyreek Hill too? Right. All right, come on, 7th rounder, let's go. Yeah, because I know we had Scampers in here talking about, is it gross to be excited about PJ to DJ? No, it is not gross. If anything, I don't think you're excited enough, because not saying that PJ Walker is like the next coming of Kurt Warner, but like it's good for DJ Moore. And I'm sorry, that penalty for taking off his helmet was just 100% bullshit. And that probably cost them the game, I would say, too. So, yeah, not great. We'll run through. Yeah, we're going to rapid fire these, the last part of our strategy section here with one question that we want answered about players.
It's a lightning round. The entire show was predicated on the idea of lightning round. That's what we originally wanted to do here. You went with rapid fire. Come on.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, okay, so we would have rather had just flames instead of. I would have rather had lightning, honestly. I would rather have lightning versus the flames. I don't know. I'm a lightning guy, as I have epilepsy and they give me seizures. Anyway, one question that we want answered about a player situation week 9. I will do mine real quick. Can Travis Etienne be an RB1 rest of the season now that he has a little competition around him and some likely negative game scripts that will allow some passing to him? I'm very excited about the Travis Etienne experience now. And it's not just because I have him as my running back in Kings Classic. Yeah, I mean, they shipped out James Robinson. He got all the work like we pretty much thought that would happen. He is just a master of ripping off chunk plays. Yeah, I mean, what do you think about Travis Etienne RB1 season? We'll just go around real quick with that.
I'm here for it.
Yeah, no question. Like
100%.
I had to look at the show doc to say, is he saying the RB1 or an RB1? And you're saying an RB1, no question. The RB1 from here to the end of the season.
It's a bit frothy.
Say no, like it's a little spicy, but he could get there. If CMC was on the Niners, I would say it's possible.
And me and my infinite, my great Grammarly here, I put RB1 because
RB1.
RB1. Britt, the question you want answered about a player situation in week 9.
So I really need to know: are the Carolina Panthers going to split carries between Donta Foreman and Chuba Hubbard like they did that first week after they traded CMC? Because all of us who were at work and were bartending when that trade went down, and somebody had already picked up Donta Foreman in several of the leagues, and so they got left with Chuba Hubbard, desperately needs to know, can we start him, or is Donta Foreman going to be the guy going forward?
Gary?
All right, I was muted. I was responding to Wendy. I'm sorry. I think that Foreman should do they should do that with him. I don't see I think it will be not a 1A to 1B. I think it'll be a 1 and then like a 2A. I don't know if that makes sense. I think Chuba is going to get, let's just say 30% to 70%. It's almost going to be more of like a Zeke Pollard thing. I don't even know if that's the right phrasing. I think that Foreman could be the future for that team, and that they could ride him for the next 1 to 2 years and just don't worry about it. Like, he does not have wear on the tires other than the Achilles, but he's clearly recovered. It's been several years. I love it. I think he's going to be awesome, and they can actually use him to not spend a pick on a running back in the draft.
Yeah, I think Foreman's definitely carved out the main role in that offense. Like, they've been trotting out with Chuba Hubbard out. They trotted out the Spencer Browns and the Raheem Blackshears, but I think you're pretty close to that, Gary, with the 30% for Chuba Hubbard. It takes a little bit off the top, but I still think Foreman is fine as far as getting that starter share. I mean, the other shoe's got to drop for Carolina, I would assume, at least getting into more negative game scripts, because, I think they're just running hot right now. So I think we might be seeing the best out of Deonta Foreman. I think he can be at least a middle road to low end RB2 most weeks. Obviously has upside if he gets in the end zone, but I do feel like that's few and far between with this offense. Or what do I know? We don't know shit about fuck. So who knows? Carolina could just go on a run and, just completely ruin our lives. And then we're all on fantasy receipts from here till eternity. Like I already was once with my Dante Foreman tweet.
PJ Walker has ascended.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. He is no longer XFL superstar,
No.
PJ Walker. He is NFL good quarterback, PJ Walker.
Kurt Warner 2.0
right now.
So I'll just say mine really quick. I don't even know the discussion because it's so tough with this. I just want to know, is the Chiefs going to make any substantive change in their backfield so that for us that we have a viable fantasy back? I have no interest in starting pretty much anyone on that team, including CEH, unless by apocalypse and you kind of have to. Even then, I really am trying to find somebody else. We need to see something, and I think Isaiah Pacheco should be that person where they give them a little bit extra. We did see it in previous years, like Derek Gore, dude. When they gave Derek Gore enough carries, like you get these guys going and they have a full head of steam. But who the hell? I mean, they also brought in Kadarius Toney, so maybe he's going to be siphoning like 5 carries a game.
I mean, he has run the ball with the Giants, so
yeah,
he'll be using those Tyreek Hill like little jet sweep motions.
Yeah, the pop-up passes. Yeah.
So,
I will, if it's split like it has been, like 30%. I have no problem dropping Pacheco unless he is viewed to me as a handcuff and a break glass in case of emergency. Same with CEH. I'm probably not dropping CEH just because of the name recognition, though.
Yeah, that whole backfield is like persona non grata for me. CEH is like the de facto leader in the case of you drafted him the highest, and Pacheco has like size and like really good measurables, but he is a dog shit running back as far as like actual skills. But Jerick McKinnon is the best receiving back, and it gets the most snaps out of all those backs every week. So, I mean, it's really like the worst Sophie's choice of all time with these three running backs. I'm starting McKinnon if I really have a choice in the matter, but you never feel good about starting a Chiefs running back. So I just can't wait until Kansas City drafts Sean Tucker from Syracuse next year and completely makes that a 4-way backfield and just ruins all our lives. So, that's my funny way of saying good luck finding any clarity in this backfield.
Yeah, you guys said it all. I have no idea what's going on with anything in that backfield.
Yeah, that's about where we're at with Kansas City. Now, I'll answer this question real quick before we head out. I have Kittle on bye. The fab is 150. I have 113. How much do I bid on Evan Engram? Too bad we don't have Coop for this one. I could call him live from Reykjavik, but I think he might be sleeping at this point. It might be like 3 or 4 in the morning. Evan Engram has been pretty solid the last couple weeks. I'd probably put 10-50%. I'd probably bid if I have 113 out of 150. I'm probably bidding like 20.
I'm gonna do 25.
Yeah.
Anytime people ask fab questions like this, and you have somebody on a buy, the question is, who is the guy if you miss out on Engram that you're gonna end up picking up for free or something that you're gonna put $1 on, whatever it is? Because if that player is, I insert terrible tight end right now, Noah Fant, then You want to make
well,
sure that you get Evan Ingram. And if you're thinking 25, then just add $2 extra because who cares? Beating somebody out by like $2 when you added 3 is like the greatest thing in the world.
Yep.
And then bidding 25 when nobody else bid is the worst.
It happens.
It does. It does. Absolutely. So, all right. Well, we will head on out of here. Gary, again, thank you for coming on, my friend. It's always a pleasure when our paths cross, getting on here to talk some ball.
I love it. Thank you guys for having me. It's always fun to see your beautiful faces and actually get to talk with you live rather than with my thumbs via our group message that is going at all hours of the day. I feel like, especially now with Coop being international.
Yeah, at all times. We got the original crew back together today. It was great. Thank you for coming on.
The calm before the storm crew.
I love it. Fighting chance live.
Yes. That too as well. Please like our video so we can all eat. At least one of us has kids. Gary has kids.
I do.
So please feed Ewan by hitting the like button and subscribing if you haven't. Before I go, next week we will not have Coop, but we will have Kendall Valenzuela on with us too. So that'll be awesome to have her. The estrogen will be flowing. I will be severely outnumbered here. So
finally,
I know, right? I mean, at worst, it's been 2v2, with like Sampraviti and Jen Piacenti, and now I'm screwed. So, I mean,
I love it. I can't wait.
I can't wait either. It'll be a lot of fun. Again, Gary, thank you so much. You know what? When we get out, we'll get out of here. I'm Kevin Tompkins for Britt Flynn as well. Gary, lead us out.